And joining us right now is Reena Gandhi. She is the attorney for Kilmer Abrego Garcia. Reena, thank you for being here. You're just now out of that courtroom. We read some of the quotes from what we heard from the judge. The judge is clearly was frustrated today, but what is your big takeaway from this hearing? Are you satisfied with what happened?
Well, first, thank you for having me, Kate. To answer your question, if we're satisfied, we'll never be satisfied until Kilmer is back. So no, the fight's not over, but I do consider this day to be a win. We did get our expedited discovery granted, and we have a plan.
So a win today, there is a plan going forward. I want to read something more. You heard it, but for everyone, for our viewers, the judge said today that every day Mr. Garcia is detained in CCOT is a day of irreparable harm. But it does sound like there are, at the very least, many more days that he will be spending there. I mean, what is the next step?
Well, normally discovery like this would take potentially months, maybe years. So the fact that we're getting this done in 2 weeks, while an unimaginable hardship to the family and to him, is fast. It is fast.
And what comes with this discovery? What is your anticipation? Let's say in 2 weeks, you're going to be back in court. And in this process, then what?
Well, we're hoping that the administration will present their affiants, the people who provided information for those affidavits, will be able to provide more insight into what they can do, what they are willing to do, or what they're not willing to do. And from there, we can see the court potentially order contempt for not following through with what the Supreme Court has ordered, or take further action, sanctions, things like that.
Do you think that the judge should have moved to hold them in contempt even today?
I think that this is a highly politicized case, and the judge understood that by doing so, it would only raise tempers. Would it have been appropriate? Arguably, yes. But I think it was likely ultimately the right call to actually move this case forward.
The judge also said in court that the administration's understanding of facilitate flies in the face of the plain meaning of the word. So what then do you think the government should be doing?
Well, there are many things the government could do. There are many other cases from our clients as well that we've seen personally where the government helps to bring foreign nationals, legal permanent residents, U.S. citizens back from foreign countries. We have a number of agencies, not just DHS, who are tasked with maintaining our foreign relations, who have contacts, who have liaisons who they can reach out to. The Supreme Court was clear. They must facilitate his release, not just his return physically into the United States, but his release. So what have they done to do that? I hope that's what we'll find through discovery.
One of the things that we heard from the border czar, Tom Homan, today, and also others in the administration, is that if your client is brought back to the United States, they are going to move to just simply deport him again. Are you all prepared for that?
Yes, 100%. However, bring him back and let's have the actual proper procedure that should have happened if this was their allegation. There is a proper way to remove someone's withholding of removal grant. That's not impossible, but he was not given that opportunity. They decided they were the judge for him, and they removed him without him ever seeing a courtroom. If he were to return, which is what we are asking for, fine, put forward your evidence, file a motion, have a judge make a decision. But they don't get that right.
Reena Gandhi, thank you very much for coming on. 2 weeks of discovery. Let's see what happens now. Thank you very much. Out front with me now is legal analyst Ryan Goodman for more on this. You were sitting here listening to Abrego Garcia's attorney, Reena, just now, describing today in court as a win, but what do you think?
So I think it is a very significant step forward for the plaintiffs. It's exactly what they asked for. And in fact, the judge says, is this not the core of what the plaintiffs are currently asking for, which is this kind of judicial investigation through discovery, and to get some answers and in a certain sense lay the groundwork for understanding what the government could do and what the government is or is not doing.
Could this case, or does this case necessarily need to end up back at the Supreme Court? And if it does the Supreme Court need to be, I guess I keep describing it as like a little less vague in its, in its wording this next time. What do you think?
I think it'll end up at the Supreme Court regardless, because the Trump administration is going to try to bring it there. They maybe try to bring it there very early, in fact, saying that some of this issue of discovery and the questions being asked shouldn't be asked. So maybe they try to do that. But the Supreme Court already basically said these are the things that they need to answer to. So they could try that, but I don't think it'll die fast. And then the last one will be if she does, in fact, the district court judge, hold them in contempt. I think one of the most important parts of the order that she gave this evening is she actually points to one of the ways in which the United States government seems to have control over the matter. She says it's inexplicable that Abrego Garcia is still being held in CCOT. And she drops a footnote and cites the text that we do have from the written agreement with El Salvador that's been released by the Associated Press because they obtained part of the agreement, which says that they'll be holding CCOT, quote, pending the United States decision on their long-term disposition, end quote. That's what the judge says, which is basically saying you have much more authority, the United States government, to do something here, to do anything, take certain steps to facilitate his release.
Then you're playing at. Then you're saying that you have had, and because they keep saying that their hands are tied, they can't do anything about it. One aspect of this that is confounding is I had mentioned that the justice attorney who had been working on this case, at least one of them, has just been fired. And this is the same attorney that had said in court that Abrego Garcia admitted or acknowledged the reality in court that given his standing and the do not deport order, that he should not have been deported out of the United States. What is your reaction to his firing in the midst of all of this? And can any Justice Department attorney successfully argue this case at this point, or the way the administration would like it to be?
That's a great question. On her first day in office, Attorney General Bondi issued one of her memorandums about zealous advocacy. On its face, I didn't think it was anything necessarily objectionable, but it sounds like that's what she's implementing in a way that is objectionable against this attorney. The attorney was being candid with the court, and in fact, the Court of Appeals said, look, there's a duty to be a zealous advocate, but it is tempered by the duty of candor to the court. And they looked at the record, and they were saying this person's being candid by saying this was an error. I actually have no idea what else the attorney could have done. It's not him saying it was an error. It's in the government affidavits.
That's the thing. The other option is obviously like lie or, I don't know, play dumb.
Right, like say, oh, I cannot answer that question. I have not been given permission to answer that question, which would have been ridiculous. In fact, he did what he's supposed to do in the courtroom, and now he seems to be punished for it based on what we see in the record. Maybe there's something else there, but everything that we've seen seems to be that he's being retaliated against for being candid with the court.
So one more layer of this. It's great to see you, Ryan.
Good to see you.
Thank you so much.